So we start. That's me. My name is Siddharth Kalilka, but everybody calls me Sid. I'm an agile evangelist. Well, those are all the badges which I have. It doesn't matter. And you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. So, agile governance. Why? Why the hell do we need agile governance? Right? Why agile governance? Because in agile, we must always ask ourselves that question again and again and again and again. Why am I doing what I'm doing? So, why do we need governance in agile? There's a huge misconception out there that agile does not have governance. Now, remember, that's a misconception. A bunch of cowboys locked away in a dark cupboard getting away with blue murder, that is not agile. Yes, governance is light touch, it is lightweight, but it is there. You can't get away from it. So, how and just why did agile governance come from? Where did it start? Why do we have agile governance? How did this concept of governance in agile come and why did it come? Where did it come from? So for that we have to go back in time. Where did it all begin? A brief history of agile governance. As businesses started transitioning from traditional Prince to waterfall, a concern was flagged up around the lack of governance. Because if you remember from the good old days when we had Prince 2 and waterfall and everything was command and control, and now it's no longer command and control, it's agile. But then when we started the transition, the old school said, hang on, you're talking about doing stuff. You're talking about doing stuff in these so-called sprints and da-di-da-di-da, and you're going to do it all quickly, and you're going to have a lot of new development coming along. What about governance? Where's the governance gone? So before I share more on this, let us delve into some history. Yeah. Prince 2 methodology. Remember, that was a methodology. Agile is a framework. There's a slight difference. The Prince 2 methodology was designed and formulated by the UK's MOD, Ministry of Defense. They are the inventors of Prince 2. All right. Did Simran know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Good.
no.
No. Okay. The success was adopted by US, then EU, then rest of the world. Because Prince 2 was so successful, it worked so beautifully, it worked so nicely that quickly US adopted it, and then Europe adopted it, and then the rest of the world adopted it. This all started back in 1989. It's a long, long time ago. That is when Prince 2 actually came about. I'm not going into the history of Prince 2 because there is a history behind Prince 2 as well. It came from something that was known as prompt, PROMPT, prompt. Prompt is what was developed by the Ministry of Defense, and they created Prince, and then they created the final version, which was Prince 2, and that's why it's called Prince 2. All right. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of history on Prince 2. We are all agile guys here. We're going to talk about agile. So, history, continuing that history, 21 years later, in 2010, the UK decided to go fully digital. All right. That was 2010, which means that's another 11 years ago. Established the world's first digital transformation initiative, the DTI, and that was by the UK government's Government Digital Service, GDS, right? Don't worry about the acronyms. In any case, I hope Vijay is recording this, so you will be able to go back and refer to this again and again when you like. This was headed by a chap called Liam Maxwell, right? And those days, the Prime Minister was David Cameron. David Cameron gave him a free hand to evolve the GDS as the UK government's core to implement the DTI vision, the Digital Transformation Initiative vision, right? Are you guys carrying along? I mean, it starts 21 years later after Prince 2 and 11 years before today. Then the UK decides, hey, we want to go digital. We want to go fully digital. Now, David Cameron, for all his other faults, he was a visionary. And he knew where the world was moving. The world was moving digital, right? He says, we can't be left behind. UK can't be following people. We have to take the lead. And which is why he got this chap called Liam Maxwell. So Liam Maxwell is the guy who actually started the GDS. The Government Digital Service was a part of the UK government's cabinet office, number one. Number two, Liam Maxwell reported directly into Prime Minister David Cameron. So he had no other boss, right? Now, why did Cameron do that? Because Cameron wanted to give him that free hand. I mentioned, gave him a free hand. What does a free hand mean? He says, Liam, we want to make UK government digital, right? And Liam said, well, the way to do that is you give me a free hand. He says, yeah, you got a free hand. So Liam Maxwell reports only into the Prime Minister, nobody else, right? So you got to moan, you got to complain. It's a bit difficult to go with a complaint to the Prime Minister, isn't it? So nobody complained. It was the GDS that took a policy decision to enable all areas of UK government to transition into agile ways of working, right? So Liam Maxwell makes that decision, and they make it a policy decision, so nobody can fight it. Nobody can, argue against it. It's the government's policy decision. We made a policy. We are going to go agile. You like it or not. With decades of embedded Prince2 and waterfall methodology, there was bound to be flags raised around governance. So the old school, the bureaucrats, they said, hang on, you're talking about this newfangled thing, this agile ways of working. What about governance? So next, what happened was Liam Maxwell made a very smart move. What he did was he called in the MOD. Remember, the Ministry of Defense are the guys who had invented Prince2. So he calls them in and he says, create a form of agile governance that would be acceptable to the old school, the civil servants in UK government, right? So you guys, you invented Prince2. You know what kind of governance you had invented. How can we make governance a part of agile? The idea was we want to conduct all projects using the agile Scrum framework. Now you guys devise the governance around it. You guys go out and think about it and hey, hang on, what do we want to do? How do we implement governance within agile Scrum? The MOD set about that task and decided to make a meld, a kind of mixture, a kind of a hybrid of the Agile Scrum framework and use the Agile DSDM framework for governance. The result was what is known as Agile DSDM pattern. Anybody ever heard of that?
No.
No? Okay. Agile DSDM pattern. Can somebody tell me why they added that pattern? Does
I'm
anybody
aware
know
of
what?
DSDM.
Sorry?
I'm aware of DSDM, but not aware of why it was called Atom or Atom framework.
Ah, yeah. So, can anybody tell me what an pattern is? No.
Maybe a short form of attorney or something.
No. Attern,
Place.
Attern is a bird. It's a bird from the tern family. The tern is very common. In fact, the name of the bird is common tern. Attern is from the same family, but it's not exactly a tern. You can say it is a cousin of tern. Right? Now, very interesting. Somebody in the MOD was a bloody intellectual. Why did he choose Attern? Fantastic. Beautiful idea. What a conception. Did you guys know Attern, the bird, it's a bird, yeah? Now understand, why did they choose this name Attern for that framework? Attern is the bird, it's a bird that mates for life. right? When the male attern kind of marries the female attern, it's for life. Year after year, they mate together and they have, the female lays eggs and they have kids. But he doesn't choose another female in his life. He has only one wife, right? Now, forget even that. It is the only creature on this planet, the one and only wild creature in this planet, which displays collaboration, which displays cooperation. How does it display? What do you mean by saying displays collaboration and cooperation? So, what happens? The attern mates, yeah, and now the female wants to lay eggs. So the male goes out, gets all those twigs and branches and leaves and stuff and makes the nest for her. And now that female has laid eggs in that nest, right? And she is now sitting on that, warming those eggs to hatch them, right? What does the male do? He doesn't hang around. The male attern helps another couple to build their nest. Can you imagine something like that? We're talking about wild animals. This is wild creatures, but it's part of nature. So while his wife is sitting on those eggs, warming them to hatch them, this male attern helps another couple of atterns to build their nest, and so on and so on. So every male attern, once he's built his own nest and his wife is sitting there hatching those eggs, that guy goes out and helps another couple to build their nest, to build their home. How wonderful. And that is why the MOD decided to call this Agile DSDM Act. And because they said it's all about collaboration, it's all about cooperation, it's all about helping each other. That's why they called it Agile DSDM Act, right? So, the UK government GDS soon produced the first version of the GDS guidelines. Anybody here heard of the GDS guidelines? Simran or the guy from Scotland? I forget your name, sorry. Nope.
Rainier.
Yeah, Rainier. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Sorry, Sid. Yes, I'm not familiar with it. I haven't heard of it.
You have heard of it, yeah. Yeah. So because you haven't worked on government projects, have you? Otherwise, there it's compulsory. It's
Yes,
mandatory. You
yes,
don't have a choice.
that's right. Yeah. So it's a foreign term for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So GDS guidelines. GDS stands, just to remind you all, the GDS stands for Government Digital Service, right? And they soon produced this first version of the GDS guidelines. All projects will be conducted within the Agile Scrum framework, and governance will follow the Agile DSDM Attern framework. That was the core value for the GDS guidelines. Any idea who wrote the GDS, the first version of the GDS guidelines? Nope. Like I said, it was headed by Liam Maxwell. He was assisted by a chap called William Smith. There was a third chap called Alan Cornhill, right? Alan Cornhill was from the Home Office. And there was a fourth chap. These four guys who actually wrote the first version of the GDS guidelines. All right. I didn't mention the fourth guy, did I? No. Anybody knows? I don't think so. Most of you don't even know the GDS guidelines, so how can you know who wrote it? The fourth guy was a bloke called Sid. Ever heard of him? No? Okay, no problem. Just like Prince 2 and Waterfall, the rest of the world followed. So when the MOD, the UK government, created the Agile DSDM Attern framework, Very quickly, the US, Europe, the rest of the world just followed. The next chapter of this timeline is covered in my how backlogs evolve in Agile. So I'm not going into the detail of that because if you have seen my previous workshop around how backlogs evolve, then you know what I'm talking about. Sorry, somebody said something?
No, you carry on.
Yeah, okay. So present. We are now coming into the present. What happens in today's world? So introducing agile governance. Now we have the background, we got the history, we got how it came to be, how what is it all about, and now we know that okay, we're talking about agile governance. So let's start on agile governance. Remembering the Prince 2 days, because you can't escape that. That was where the old ways of working, the old ways of doing projects. How did we used to start a project? I'm talking about Prince 2. So it all started with the project organization or the PO. The project manager used to create the project organization, right? What was the project organization? The project organization was just a kind of list of people who are going to be involved in that project. It is almost the same in Agile DSCM pattern, but not exactly. There's a bit of difference. The only difference is that we call it as the Agile Project Organization instead of calling the project organ. So it's no longer a PO, it's called an APO. That's one difference. And instead of designation, we have role. In Agile, it doesn't matter what your designation or day job is. Rather, we focus on what role you're going to undertake in that project. And of course, we now have a Scrum Master that has replaced the PM's role. So what do I mean when I say instead of designation, we have a role? And it's, your designation doesn't matter. So for example, if I am doing a project, right, where in that project, I have a chap called Boris Johnson, right? And for that project, the best thing he can do is sweep the floors, okay? Which means I'm going to keep him in that project as a janitor, right? To explain to the Indian guys, we're talking about a sweeper. We're talking about a jamadar, jaduwala. Okay. So it doesn't matter that he's the prime minister of the UK. That's his designation. It doesn't matter that his work is the prime minister's work. That is his day job. But for my project, he's going to be a janitor. That is the role that he will fulfill for my project. So that's the difference. That's a big, big difference on the Prince 2 days. Your designation doesn't matter. What role are you playing in my project? Are you a Scrum Master? Are you playing a developer? Are you going to be a QA? Are you going to be a BA? Are you going to be a user researcher? Da-di-da-di-da, right? So what is the role that you are going to be undertaking for my project? I don't care what your designation, I don't care what your day job is, right? It's a very, very fundamental difference from the Prince 2. Yeah, somebody has a question? No? Okay.
No, I think it was unmute. So carry
All
on,
right.
please.
So here is an example of an APO. Now, this is going to be a little. Oops. I'm not very good at this. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what I've just selected from various projects. So this is one project which I was doing. Now here is an agile project organization, and this is what it looks like. I have to go back from the top. So this is, I've just picked up one odd project which I was doing. Now here, as you can see, we have several levels. Yeah, we have got level 1, level 2, level 3. So what are these levels? The levels are Like we used to have in the Prince today, there's a business sponsor, there's a program manager, there's a product director, analysis manager, chief technical architect, escalation manager, UAT, da 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 da. Yeah. So these are the top levels. We call them level one. There's a level two where you have the Scrum Master, product owner, test architect, da 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 da. And then level three are the people who are actually doing the work. All right. So here we have level three. And within the level three is a Scrum team. So there's a Scrum Master, there's a developer, this is an Angular guy, this guy is a front end developer, there's an interface, a lot of there's somebody doing QA, and so on, so on. So what do these three levels mean? It means that this level three are the people who are actually doing the work. Okay, so here you got your developer and tester, and this is a very small project. So it's not about, normally you would have at least 7, 8 people here, right? And they go back into the obviously product owner and so on. Now here, what happens is think of it in terms of a fallback. So somebody in level 3 has a problem which he can't solve, then he goes to level 2. Right? So what it means is, let us say this developer has got an issue which he can't resolve, he can't solve. He goes to level 2, and maybe he goes to the architect. Right? I am stuck here, what can I do? Yeah. And if level 2 has a problem, their fallback is level 1. Hey, we got a problem, help us out. Right? So that is what the APO is, what it looks like. I showed you a very simple example. I could have shown you a more complex one, but I don't want to make this, I want to keep this as simple as possible, not confuse you guys. So that is how we begin with the project. The start of the project. Now you got your project organization in place. Yeah. We have our APO in place. We know just who our stakeholders are and how, when we need to communicate with them, with whom and why. Because remember, in the Prince 2 days, it wasn't that one document was only the project organization. But this document, the Agile project organization, is not simply the fallback. Think of it also as a communication plan, right? Like I said, that level 3 guy has got an issue, he goes to level 2. The level 2 guy cannot solve it. The matter goes to level 1, somebody has to solve it, right? Now, similarly, we start the project. Now, when we start the project, the next step is to make it clear to all our stakeholders just what the elements of our Agile Scrum framework are and how it is actually going to work. Yeah, it's no good saying, hey, we're going Agile, we're doing this Agile, da 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 da. What exactly is Agile? So everybody needs to know that. Everybody needs to understand that. Get everybody on the same page. So create a document that will define the how what of our framework. So step one, this whole exercise, this workshop today is about, I said I will tell you step by step how it's done. So we started with the Agile project organization. We created that. Now we got our people, we got the people in place, we know who our stakeholders are, but we need to get everybody onto the same page. So how do we do that? So for that, we do like we had in the Prince 2 waterfall days, there used to be a terms of reference document, right? Like Prince 2 and waterfall had terms of reference, we have an Agile Scrum ceremonies or events document, which is the agile version of the same kind of document which Prince 2 used to make. Now, here is an example of that. All right. So here is Agile Scrum ceremonies and events. All right. This I've created for the NHS, as you can see here. NHS is very bureaucratic, so they have this document control and da-di-da-di-da. You don't need to have that. So it starts with the contents. Yeah. What are the Agile Scrum ceremonies and events? What is going to happen when? And the glossary of terms. So we come to that. We say Agile Scrum kickoff. So what is an Agile Scrum kickoff? The Agile Scrum kickoff is for anyone who would like or needs to attend. So this document also defines who are going to be there. The time box can be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. The purpose is for the visionary and product owner to articulate the vision and goals of the project. Why are we doing what we are doing? The visionary makes a presentation, which may be audio, visual, PowerPoint, etc., on the vision. That hey, this is the reason we're doing this project. Yeah. It is also an opportunity to communicate team values and working arrangements, the product owner availability, the sprint length, definition of done, da 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 da. Then we say, okay, sprint, hang on, what's a sprint? So, what does the Agile Scrum framework recommend? So, this is from the from the Agile Manifesto, right? So we say the time box. So the less than a calendar month, usually 2 weeks, consistent length. Purpose to work on items until done and create a usable and potentially releasable product increment during a sprint. No changes will be made. No dev test team composition remain constant. Quality goes on, and the sprint is a container for all that. Now here we can say that yes, this is what the Agile Scrum framework says. This is what the Agile Manifesto says. If we are making changes, then we can say for our organization, in this case NHS, right? We are saying, we said here that the time box is less than a calendar month, usually 2 weeks. So here we are saying that yes, it will be 2 weeks, right? Sprints last 2 weeks, typically 9 days, dev test, and 1 day for events and planning, right? Hardening sprints last 1 week will be the hardening sprint when at the end of the project, right? So this is what the manifesto said. This is what we are going to practice in our project. The same way, you make it clear for everything. So sprint planning, what does the manifesto say? What are we going to do? Yeah. Sprint estimating, what does the manifesto say? What we are going to do. Sprint planning, what does the manifesto say? Right? What we are going to do. And so on. So for unless there is a change, otherwise you put it there, you define that your daily scrum, this is what manifesto says, and this is what we are going to do in our project. Yeah, because this means that this is what you are going to follow, which may be slightly different from here, right? Your daily scrum is supposed to be 15 minutes. Maybe you have 20 minutes. Maybe you got 30 minutes. So define that here. What is a sprint review? Yeah. Again, what are we going to do in our sprint review? What is the sprint retrospective? What are we going to do in our retrospective, right? And so on. And once you finish with that, also you have a glossary of terms. So Agile Scrum team comprises of Agile Scrum Master and Agile Scrum team. What is it? Is self-organizing and cross-functional, have all skills needed, and so on. I'm not going through the whole document. In any case, this is the last page. But I guess you guys have understood what I am trying to drive at here. Don't worry, I shall make these documents available to Vijay as well. He can share it across. So you don't have to worry about, hey, we saw it, but we don't have it. You will have it. Now let us now again go back to think to those same Prince 2 days. So once the PO was in place, in our case, the APO, and the TOR, the terms of reference, which we call the ceremonies document, the next step was to create and write the project initiation document, the PID. This was, I'm talking from the Prince 2 days. Unusually stuffy, usually a 50 plus pager piece of work that nobody ever read, right? Now, Agile is all about collaboration and cooperation. Yeah, we don't do command and control. Therefore, in Agile, the SM does not create a document, rather the SM is the editor for that document, and that is known as the foundations document, right? What used to be known as the PID in the Prince2, in Agile, it's called foundations document. What's a foundations document? How does that foundations document even come into existence? Where does it come from? Now, here is an example of the document which I'll show you. Oops. Oops, I forgot to open that. Okay, so here is an example of the foundations document. Like I said there, remember, these are the editors, yeah, uh, which may be your Scrum Master or the Agile coach and so on. Yeah, they are going to be editing this. They don't create this document. Everybody, loads of people contribute here. So it starts with what? The foundations document contains the following elements or sections. So what are those elements? What are those sections? The business inputs. These will come from the product management team. All right. So these are your business inputs. What will come from them? The business vision, the business case, and the link to the product backlog. All right. That is from the level 1. The level 2 management will give the business area definition, system architecture definition. Remember, we looked at level 1, level 2, level 3 in our project organization. That was level 1, that was level 2, that was level 3, right? Same way, here everybody is contributing. So level 1 gives the business vision, business case, and the product backlog, right? Then you have level 2. So what does level 2 do? The business area definition, defining the business purpose for this project, right? System architecture definition, defining what system architecture we will follow and why, right? Then you have the development approach definition, defining what dev approach will be taken for our techies and again why. Always remember agile, why, right? Now we go a bit lower and now we come to what used to be the project management stuff. From the PM perspective, the project approach, the project organization, which you already made, the delivery plan, increment and sprint schedule, as you can see here. From the delivery perspective, so what do you have from the delivery perspective? You have the RAID, details of periodic reporting, the method of reporting, details of the daily Scrum, location of the information radiator, the Scrum board, right? And final sign off from the practice heads. All right. An example, which I was just showing you, I showed you how it started. Now let us go into the actual document. Remember, instead of 50 pages, this is just 20 pages. So we start with the business vision. All right. So for this, like I said, I've taken this example. It's a very old one from 2014. This was for a company which is the world's biggest B2B portal. Electro Components PLC, better known as RS Components. I was doing a project with them, create a £1 billion e-commerce business at the heart of Electro Components through transforming the customer experience, delivered through the creation of a world-class online experience. Well, this is what the business vision is, right? We'll focus on 3 areas. It says what we're focusing on: drive traffic to our website, convert traffic, drive repurchasing, and so on. And then we got the link to the project management SharePoint view. Then the business case. So why are we doing this? What is the business case? What are we going to achieve here? So at the heart of this priority is the formation of a £1 billion e-commerce business that we can respond to quickly. I'm not going through, you can read this. Like I said, I will be giving all this to Vijay to share with you guys. And okay, so what this project has the funding of £895,000 required to fund the total project cost to completion, right? And the target is, we will have 46 million pounds incremental online sales for FY15, which will online sales to 652 million pounds, and so on, so on. Yeah. So that was the business case. Then we have the prioritized, which is not detailed here, but we can ignore that. The business area definition, right? So business area definition. So what is the vision, and what are we trying to do? So e-commerce with the human touch, and so on. Now you can have, where we are headed. This is where we were, what we want to do. This is where we were, where we want, what is the target, what are we trying to achieve here, and so on. We come to the system architecture. So here now the techies take over. So far you had all the business guys, the project guys, telling their story. Now we got the techies entering the picture. So what are the various technologies? What are the stacks? Right? So we got RS website, we got these are various elements, we got a Java order pipeline, we got a shape, right? There's elements of SAP, there's EI, which is the middleware, the business intelligence, documentum, and so on. What are the core platforms which will be used, right? We got Linux, we got Oracle, we got Apache Web Servers, we got Java Enterprise Edition, right? And the various frameworks, we got Struct, Stream, JSP, JavaScript, jQuery, and so on, right? And what is the system architecture and what are we going to do with it? So now the architecture also gives the whole plan. That this is the architecture we're looking at, right? And then the bespoke framework, how we are going to convert, how we are going to use this architecture to produce this for our project. Yeah. So what are the system architecture change and process? So how will we change that? What is the process? Yeah, I'm not going into all the various, intricate details. Now we come to the development approach definition. How are we going to develop this? What is going to be a solution review strategy? So the test approach. Once we have the test approach, what are the test objectives? We have the test objectives, what are going to be the test phases? This unit testing, automated testing, smoke test, integration, da 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 da. So there's the testing guys now. And you had the architects, you now have the testing guys, right? What are the development standards we will be using? What is going to be project approach? So again, like I said, it was the e-commerce tactical change project will be agile in its methodology. We will be using Scrum and DSGM as per the agile RS agile standards, right? And the project organization which we had made, we now embed it here. We include it here, right? It's the same as before, level 1, level, like I said, this is a more complex piece. So you got level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 3 is, as you can see, is larger than what it was there, right? And finally, all this is signed off. We have a delivery plan and da 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 da. We have a delivery control pack. And the final sign off, now you can see everybody here is signing off. Yeah. So there's a solution architect, there's a project manager, test architect, technical coordinator, da 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 da. So everybody has to sign off. Now, what does that mean? Sorry, I should have. The one thing I forgot to mention here, the reason why is this important? What is the importance of the Agile Foundations document? The important thing is, if you have realized that this is the fantastic way of getting people onto the same page and you are building that collaboration and cooperation. Remember, this document was edited by you. It was edited by the Scrum Master or the Agile coach. But to actually create this document, to actually make all this thing, you had inputs from all these people. Yeah? You had inputs from the business guys, you had inputs from the marketing guys, you had inputs from the project guys, you had inputs from the architect guys, you got inputs from the testing guys, you got inputs from everybody, right? Which means that everybody is involved. You're not, nobody is making something and throwing it over the fence. You cannot produce this document unless you are sat in a room together. The business has to say, this is what I'm looking at. The project guy says, this is what I am looking at. This is the architecture guy says, well, if you want to do this, then this is the architecture needed. And the testing guy says, hang on, you're going to do that. How are we going to test it? And so on and so on. What you're looking at is everybody talking to each other. So when you start this project, because you made this document, nobody in the organization can say, oh, that is a surprise. I didn't know. Hang on. You were there. You were there in those meetings when this document was being produced. You jolly well knew what we were doing. You jolly well knew what the business wanted. You jolly well knew what project wanted. You jolly well knew what the architects wanted to do. Don't tell me you didn't know it. So that is why this, in other words, the foundations document at the start of the project is what is being used to promote that collaboration and cooperation. In other words, you are promoting Agile into an organization which was not Agile. Now let's get down to reporting. So how do we report? We have our daily burn down chart, right? I'm sure all of you make that every single day. The first reporting we undertake is our daily burn down chart. Why do we do that? Why do we make a daily burn down chart? What's the purpose? It is to apprise stakeholders on our daily progress. What have we done yesterday? What are we doing today? What do we think we'll be able to do tomorrow? But can the stakeholders make sense of this? Probably not. Why? Because the stakeholder needs a tool to access it, and there are 14 variants of the tool in the market. I use an Excel spreadsheet, as simple as that. Most businesses use Jira, but it's not an agile tool. Here's an example of a BDC in Jira. There you go. That is what Jira shows you. You tell me, does that make sense? It makes sense to a Scrum Master. It makes sense to you and me. Does this chart make any sense to business? Can a business guy, can a marketing guy, can a product guy understand what's going on? I'm sure he can't. Now let us look at a BDC that I have produced for a different project using good old Excel. This is the high-level version for a quick overview. The full version now this is what the burn down chart looks like when I produce it in Excel. You can see, hey, this is where we started, this is how we are progressing. This red line was our target. Yeah. Now that is the upper side, like I said. The full version of the BDC that I make and share with my stakeholders look like this. All right. So you have a chart here and you have the detail here. So if anybody is interested, they can know exactly which person was doing what on which day. So on 5th of May, what this is for the 5th of May. So on 5th of May, what was achieved, what was done, right? It gives a complete detail. Now this is as per Agile DSTM pattern. If we go back, this is what Jira showed you. And this is what DSTM pattern can do for you. Shows what's going on, progress each member is making, because here you can see what each person, you had a task, you had a story, who's responsible for it, what they were doing, how they were progressing. You can see it every single day. And on a day-to-day basis. Sorry, somebody had a question?
Excuse me. Yeah. Saravanan here. I
Yeah.
just want to check with you. Business does not want, the user story level of status. They just want the business initiative level of status. For
Yeah,
that, uh, why we need to, what, give this status to them?
yeah. You are looking at business only. I am making this and sending this to all my stakeholders. If the business is only interested in this, they don't need to look at the second page. If somebody is interested on a day-to-day basis, the project guy is, the program guy is, then he can go and find, yeah. So this is agnostic. This is not meant, this is not directed for a particular area. This BDC, this burn down chart is for anybody and everybody, whatever your interest. If you're interested, you just look at the first page, look at the chart and be happy. If you're interested in the detail, you have the detail. If you're not interested, don't look at it. We have a weekly status report as well. I don't have an example of that right here, but along the BDC, we also do a weekly status report like we used to in the Prince 2 days. Very similar to how it was done in Prince 2. We take the BDC, just the chart, just that upper portion, just this one, insert it into an email and comment on the situation for when we make that WSO. So for example, you can make one every Monday morning. So on the Monday morning's chart, you put into that and you say, I don't have the example, what our WSR covers the equivalent of so and so. But I don't, I apologies, I didn't have an example of that available. But it's a simple email, right? It just says, okay, this is where we are, this is where we are progressing. And is this it? What happens next? It's as simple as that. And that, folks, is it. Following on from the above are the reports that you're already familiar with, so I'm not going to do that. That's the demo, show and tell, sprint review, sprint retrospective. Depending on the needs of your organization, you might wish to make an end of sprint report, which will be based around your sprint review, and you might wish to make a retrospective report. Bear in mind that these are not prescribed, right? It's up to you. If you want to make it, you make it. You don't want to make it, you don't make it. As simple as that. Any questions? And thank you for your time. I did manage to finish in the hour, Vijay.
Yes, but we are waiting for the questions. Though I just want to ask a question to you. The question is, especially in the agile world, as you rightly said in the beginning itself, that uh, governance is taken as hardcore
Yeah.
compliance. So have we moved? What do you think? Have we moved from that hardcore compliance to governance to make sure that we get success in our incremental and iterative journey? So is it that the soft side in your view, rather than making it a hardcore compliance?
No, it depends on the organization. Yeah, it depends on the organization. What I explained is the entire governance piece, the entire governance journey.
Yes.
Which portion, which element you want to adopt to your organization is up to you. I
Yes.
just explained the entire governance piece. You may not, you may not want to do a foundations document. You know, I recommend that, especially in large organizations, it gets people talking to each other.
Sure. Thank you. And there's a question from Guru.
Yeah.
Is there any prescription that states to what level this can be tailored? Guru from Bangalore.
We're agile. There is no such thing as prescription. You make changes as you feel. This is the reason we call agile a framework. You tweak it and tune it and adapt it to fit the organization, the culture of your organization. I have created, please, this the entire thing which you have seen. Like I said, it was end to end, the entire governance piece. This is what I created for the UK government, right? You don't have to. You can pick and choose. You can what works for you, what works for your organization. You don't have to do the whole piece. This is how the whole governance piece is. It doesn't mean you have to do everything I told you. I just showed you this is the whole piece. You can say, hey, I will do this and this and this, and that's fine. What works for you? What works for your organization?
So if anyone has a question, you can directly ask. That's and Guru is also saying that thanks. Just wanted to know if there is any standard.
This I just said the standard was Agile DSDA pattern. All
Yes.
these
Okay.
documents which I showed you, or everything which I showed you, is from Agile DSDA pattern. None of it is mine. Of course, I said in
Okay.
the beginning, I was one of the people who contributed to the JDS, to the first version of the JDS. So yes, I confess that I am one of the culprits who started all this.